We're again in Volusia County, just as we were for the SPS 3 site we just marked, and which just precedes this one on the tape. This is added because of the SPS 3, and these GPS ones come with it. This is going to be for low AC thickness, low base thickness, coarse subgrade, low traffic. And stiffness, well, high or low, but it'll be in the cell, which is defined by the factors that I just mentioned. Obviously, in the wet no freeze environment, being here in East Central Florida. Pulling up more signs of the freeze environment. We've got some citrus trees and some palm trees, sable palms over there. On back, looking back up, you can see the lines over there on the pavement, which I described before. There's the curve back there, and that keeps us from seeing Interstate 95, but it's about a mile back behind us. Actually, I think it's right at 3/4 of a mile. I figured it out just a while ago. Trees mixed in. Okay, beginning the video on the test section, the most predominant type of distress we have here is moderate severity alligator cracking. And I define it as that. We've got some spots where it's spalled somewhat. It's not as bad as in the SPS 3 site we just did, but we don't have any place where the pieces appear to be loose. You know, what we have here is 1.25 inches of asphalt on a double bituminous treatment, which is a 2-core surface treatment on top of 8.5 inches of lime rock. One thing that I am counting in here is transverse cracks also, and I counted a total of 4. And this is actually a little bit more defined than many of the other ones we see, but it's typical of the type of some minor spalling. The crack width is slightly over 1/4 inch, so it barely qualifies as a moderate severity. What kind of rutting did we have? I don't know if that was audible, but we had an average rut depth of around 0.15 in the outer wheel path, and it varied from 1/4 inch on the inside to a little over 1/2 inch. But the average is going to be in the low severity category or in the no category if you look at the distress manual there, where it talks about how to come up with the pavement condition index for rating this into a condition category. We've also got some longitudinal cracking, and I'm defining that as being different than the alligator. Essentially just have a single crack going down here in the outer wheel path, or actually towards the inner portion of it. On down a ways we'll get into areas where it is indeed becomes alligator cracking, and you can see one of them right here. But I am drawing a distinction between the longitudinal cracking and the alligator. Generally the longitudinal cracking is also going to be very much it's going to be in the moderate severity category, but barely into that. If we were using the paver guidelines for determining severity level, it would be low severity. So they're between 1/4 and 3/8 inch wide typically. Now in the inner wheel path we have the alligator cracking, which runs almost the entire length of the test section, all up and down here. Looks like we're in a place where we may have some of the larger ruts. As I've said before, this is a very convenient section because it's on the way to 2 other sites. In fact, this is the quickest route to get to the 2 GPS 3 sites on US 1 on that white topping project. Now, as I described before, we've gotten into an area where we have alligator cracking in both wheel paths. what I'm doing is where we have a transverse crack that stays together and runs over half the lane width, is I'm calling a transverse crack. Most of these are borderline low to moderate severity, and I'm counting them all as moderate. I guess what I could do is split them up being 50-50, because that's about how it breaks. You know, they're right on the edge, teetering back and forth. They're nothing like what we saw in Oklahoma. The alligator cracking, I haven't seen any sign of pumping on these, but there are places where we do have quite a bit of spalling, and so it fits into the moderate category. But like I said, there's very little movement. There are some spots where apparently there has been some movement and some pumping and some potholes, because there is some patching, and we do have one patch within this section. And you may be able to see it on up ahead. It's down towards the end of it. Get into this area and we've got a little bit less distress. We lose our alligator cracking in the inner wheel path for a little ways, but then we pick it up again as we get down to Station 4. As I'm walking, I'm having to try and sidestep some of these fire ant mounds. They're everywhere. There's the patch that I was talking about before. It's about 5 square feet. No, it's about 8 square feet. I'm sorry. Then we get into some other places where you see occasional spalls here on these cracks. Most of these cracks do have some light spalling on them, which is why I put them in the severity level I did. We're up here at the end of the GPS test section now. Again, we're on the eastbound lane of State Route 442. This is Edgewater, Florida. Pulling on up to complete the documentation as we do for GPS. I don't know how well I'm being heard because I'm facing the wind now. We're just up front. But looking back up on the test section, you see we're in a nice level tangent area. We're not doing any drilling at this time because we're going to have to keep the cores until we know what we're supposed to do with it. We're just going to wait and get them at a later date. And now we're looking down, and you can see the intersection up there that I referred to. They expect to have a turn lane in there, so we wanted to stop everything in here, and also we wanted to stop it in that super elevated curve. We have a 2-degree curve up there to the left, and the water is draining to the inside. There is substantially less cracking in this lane, and so we went ahead and just skipped over that section and went over the tangent to get to the PT on down at the end of this curve before we pick back up with the slurry seal section for SPS 3. This ends